immigration policy, energy policy, foreign policy. Every policy is a failure. They fear losing power, and they fear Islam. They're bewildered. They cower and submit to the demands of Islam out of fear of what might happen if they don't.
Well, assalamu alaikum. My name is Phil Hutchinson and I am the Superintendent for British Manchester Police based in Oldham.
Salam alaikum. I'm speaking to you today because I want to reinforce my commitment to protect every member of our Merseyside community.
Of course, cowering in the face of Sharia-loving fanatics does not placate them. It emboldens and morons. Our government's appeal is like feeding the crocodile and hoping it will eat them last. I think Churchill said. And hiding things, covering things up. That doesn't solve our nation's problems. It's obvious to most of us by now, covering things up lets the problems grow and grow and grow. They've done that for the last 40 years with Pakistani rape gangs for the sake of community cohesion. And they're doing it now with mass migration and the Islamisation of the United Kingdom. But lying to cover things up doesn't create community cohesion. It does the absolute opposite. It stokes anger in British people.
There was no growth in our economy in July, and yet we continually get pumped with mass migration. Just going to pose this question. If migration makes us richer, why aren't we getting poorer? Our politicians can't just lie to us and hope we don't kick off. If the truth is so bad that we might protest if we knew about it, then maybe they should do something about the problem, instead of covering it up.
And the population know they're being ignored. And worse than being ignored, they're being condemned. This time by a Prime Minister. How on earth did he end up with this job? Anyone who thinks mass immigration might not be such a great idea. Well, Tutik here, he's branded all of you as far-right thugs and Nazis, prejudged you as criminals, and his stormtroopers will come and arrest you shortly. The third emotion driving our so-called leaders is loathing. They don't believe in the nation state. They believe in open borders and cheap labour for global corporations. Their loyalties lie with the World Economic Forum. Tutik here has made that pretty clear already. They loathe our nation and its people. The obstacles to their globalist totalitarian utopia. They don't want to be challenged. They are terrified of scrutiny. They don't want their lies exposed, and they certainly don't want to listen to you, the British people.
Everybody's lives matter. Black lives matter. Trans lives matter. Refugees' lives matter, except old people's lives don't seem to matter. Why on earth are they choosing this as their first hill to die on?
Will our so-called leaders ever recognise the legitimate concerns and grievances of the British people? Do our so-called leaders actually want to solve the problems, or do they want to use the problems? Problems they created, by the way, to take more power and take away more of your freedoms. You see, these Marxists weren't elected because British people wanted to be governed by Marxists. They were only elected because of the Tories spent 14 years failing everyone. They failed the British people, failing to be remotely conservative, failing to lower taxes, failing to control our borders, failing to protect our freedoms. And now in power, these Marxists want a state of perpetual chaos and division that they create, divide and rule. There must be an enemy. There must be a reason to take action against these enemies of the state, and that action will always take away your freedom.
A knife attack on a property in Hart Street. There are reports of it involving children, and I can now confirm that some of the patients have been taken to Alder Hey Children's Hospital, so that would suggest that those reports have indeed been accurate.
Here in the UK, 2 children have been killed in what police called a ferocious stabbing at a dance class in Southport in the northwest of England.
How many more children have died? How many more children? Nine next. Got your photos, off you go. Make the real change, Prime Minister. Make the real change! Our children! Go away! That was dead! Not one dead! I know the child and he can't be sick!
So what actually happened in Southport? A man of Rwandan descent murdered 3 beautiful girls and stabbed 8 more children and 2 more adults. How did the government react? What did the machinery of the totalitarian state do? Well, you and I would hope something like this would get the government to stop and reflect from it. Why have these girls been murdered? Why is there so much life crime? Why is there so much rape? Why are these so-called asylum seekers flocking to our shores? What values and cultures do they bring with them? Are their values compatible with ours? Are all cultures of equal merit? You and I would hope the government would ask why the peasants, that's us, you and me, why are the peasants revolting? No, don't be ridiculous. Reflecting is not a popular pastime of communists and tyrants. Admitting they're wrong is not a key competence of these tyrants. Apologising for destroying our nation? It's not going to happen. What this government actually did, well, firstly, they did everything they possibly could to cover up the basic facts, what you and I will call the truth. They said immediately it wasn't terrorism. How could they possibly know immediately the motive, what there wasn't terrorism? How could they know that? And how could stabbing young girls at a Taylor Swift dance studio not be terrorism? They said he was from Cardiff. Axel Ruddock Yabana. Yes, he's as Welsh as the daffodils. They looked for evidence he was mentally ill. I can help with that one. Yeah, he was mentally ill. Anyone who commits a crime like that is mentally ill. Exactly what kind of mental illness? And they published a picture of him, looking like an innocent little 12-year-old. And the point is, he was a choir boy. They made him the victim. They did all this because they don't want us knowing the truth. They manage the information.
Misinformation is dangerous. Social media is good, but it's also bad when people are using it in a way that could cause a riot, threats, intimidation. I think the government is really going to think long and hard about what they're going to do with social media and what are they going to put through Parliament as a bill to act. Misinformation is dangerous, and no misinformation or threats or intimidation should be allowed to be carried out on social media platforms.
That's their words. How absurd, how foolish, and how dangerous. And Kia, how is this working for you, managing the information? Do the government really believe their actions will help build a peaceful, prosperous and patriotic society? What about a cohesive society? Or are they so short-sighted, so hungry for power, and so disdainful of the British people that they will use anything, no matter how awful, how tragic, they will use anything as an opportunity to implement their totalitarian agenda and crush anyone who speaks out against them. As we've said, these Marxists want a state of perpetual chaos. There must be an enemy to mobilise the population against, an enemy to divert attention away from the government's agendas and their favours.
You said the rights showed there was a societal black hole. What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that was that the riots, I think, were symbolic of a broken society. They were far right in the main, but underneath that, I think, was a societal black hole, a breaking down of society which we need to make. I'm convinced that the answer to it is delivery in government. So the best argument against the far right, best argument against the easy answer, is to deliver, to bring about the change that we promised to bring about.
That's right. Tutik here seems to acknowledge there are troubles. He says the solution is delivering in government, which suggests the cause of the problem is failure in government. I agree, Comrade Keir. And he says the far right, whoever they are, is the snake oil of easy answers. I think it'd be more accurate to say the use of the term far right to label concerned British citizens is the snake oil of lazy government. And any anger, which he labels far right, is a consequence of failure in government. You can't blame the Tories forever, Comrade Keir. Listen to this.
It doesn't matter what apparent motivation there is. This is violence, it is not protest. It doesn't matter what the motivation is.
That's right. He doesn't care what happens. He doesn't care. Okay? It gives him the excuse to crush the dissent that terrifies him. The dissent of the average British man and woman. And by the way, we still haven't been told anything about the motivation of the Southport killer. What could it possibly have been?
Good honest men are going to jail for saying that integration failed. So do you think that we're really free if we're not allowed to say what we see? tyrant, but we won't be silent, 'cause he threatens his people. Starmer is evil, but we won't be silent, 'cause he threatens his people. Starmer is evil.
Now, once they had tried very hard to manage the news about these murders in Southport, and they'd lied and patronised the entire British people in the process, what Two-Tier Keir and his cabal of apparat chicks did next is truly chilling.
You know, everyone was angry because of what had happened to those 3 little girls. The whole world was angry. My husband was then saying, you know, the government keep letting them come in to our borders. You know, kids are getting raped, filmed, what followed, things like that. You know, they're taking all our NHS, they're getting rehomed. You know, everyone coming in is just being given everything, and then things like this are happening in our country.
So what is it exactly that your husband has been accused of?
On the Saturday after Southport, he just put a status up saying the Daresbury Next, which is a hotel close to where we live, which have got immigrants and asylum seekers in there who were getting rehomed. So he went inciting that he's going there to do anything. He was just saying, with all what's going on, that's the next place that will most probably happen. People will start rioting and stuff. But he didn't put that, he just put, it's going to be the Daresbury Next. Then people commented underneath his post, and he just put, it's the government's fault if they stopped letting them in the borders, all this wouldn't be happening.
Okay, so he was being vocal on the immigration issue.
Yeah.
He went there for his daughter and for his little sister to stand up and say, like, enough's enough.
With Jack being a father himself, he's a first-time dad to a little girl, he felt it, like, it touched him emotionally, what was going on.
When he was there, he was waving his flag. He didn't say anything racist. He wasn't shouting abuse. He wasn't swearing.
There's actually numerous videos of the police telling Jack he has to put his flag down, he's not allowed to hold his country's flag. Jack saying to the police, listen, I'm not here for no violence, I haven't came for violence, I came for a peaceful protest.
The reason why he was arrested was because the police blockade, or whatever they call it, where they all have the shields, they ran and pushed his mum over, Julie, his mum, she's 68-year-old, they pushed her over, trampled over her, she was on the floor, they trampled over her. Lee's seen this and then obviously tried to get through the police to get to his mum who were on the floor. They were whacking him with a shield, sprayed him with CS gas, and he was saying, look, my mum's on the floor, I just need to get to my mum. When he was being, after he just got arrested, when he was being held around the back of the Bluebell, the police officers were saying, look, I don't even know why you've been arrested, because his mum were there as well, obviously, all the face were bruised. They could see that she'd been injured, badly injured. I don't know if you were a sergeant or just a normal police officer. They were saying, I'll ring the inspector and see if we can let you go, because I don't think it's serious enough to be arrested. So like he said, if it were my mum, I would have done the exact same.
Obviously we went home and we thought everything was fine, because obviously Jack didn't do nothing violent at all, and then that's when exactly a week later the police had knocked on the door, and then that's when he got arrested.
So they started booting my door through. My little girl was screaming in the garden, screaming in the garden, so your neighbour took her away. So I asked him to stop beating my door down, and asked him what they were here for, and he wouldn't tell me, and I said, have you got a warrant? And they said, we don't need to give you one. And I said, my back door's open and my back gate, you can go down there, stop booting my door through. So at that point when he stopped, Chris was coming out with the police, and then they went in and raided my whole house, looking for his phone and took the kids' iPads and stuff.
And were your little girl still there?
She'd been taken to my neighbours, but she was just crying her eyes out.
How long exactly did he get?
He got 5 years. A year taken off, then they took into consideration his health and his mental health, and then they gave him 32 months.
He was sentenced to 3 years, 4 months, and also a 10-year criminal behaviour order.
You're not going to see your partner Lee now for 3 years, 4 months?
No.
How do you think you're going to cope with that?
I'm absolutely gutted.
it's broke the family up. Like it's his daughter, it's a first time dad for a little girl. Like he's got Christmas coming up, it's the first one where she understands things. He's going to miss out on our first Christmas. He's missing out on our second birthday. Like
she's just like a little shell. She's usually a wee little girl. She's just not herself. She's not the same little girl. She just like she sits and just stares into space and stuff.
So with the most recent atrocity in Southport, and regardless of the murderer's motivation in this particular case, it was the last straw. People were angry, not surprisingly, not just about the Southport murderers, but about years of having their legitimate concerns about mass immigration being completely ignored. They're angry about two-tier policing and politicised judiciaries. But Labour cannot afford to have pesky voters asking questions about the consequences of open borders, mass immigration, and the incompatibility of some ideologies with our culture. So they create a different story. They turn everyone's attention to their imaginary monster, the far right, the fictional dragon they pretend to slay.
There's a lot of people that are branded, people like Lee, as a far-right racist thug. Is that true?
No, definitely not. While ever I've been with him, he's never been racist.
It's horrible. They just put lies out there.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Just everything that they've written. It's like there's actually an article about Jack that calls him far right as well. And obviously, when I spoke to Jack and made him aware of this, he's not happy. Like he's kicking off, saying on the phone, he's saying, "I'm not." They kind of just put me down as something that I haven't actually complied with. I haven't said that I am this type of person.
The last thing you would be is racist. And like every person, I think you should have kind of loyalty to your country. And if there's something wrong with your country, why can't you speak about it?
And more fanciful than that, they blamed the English Defence League.
Missiles were thrown at riot officers and a police van was set on fire by a large crowd of protesters believed to be supporters of the English Defence League.
We don't know where they streamed in from, but they're believed to be supporters of the English Defence League.
How many people work in what? There's over 50,000 apparatchiks working in the Home Office alone. And no one told two-tier Kia that the EDL disbanded a decade ago. It hasn't been here for a decade. No one in MI5 reminded him that, 90% of the people that are watching on a terror watch list, well, they follow Islam.
I am worried about the rise of the far right. I mean, we can see what's happening in Germany with the recent elections, see what's happening in France and other countries. And I'm worried about the far right because it's the sort of snake oil of the easy answer.
I utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. This is not protest. It is organised, violent thuggery. And it has no place on our streets.
Mindless minority of thugs who thought that they could get away with causing chaos.
But this deception is not without consequence, Kia.
The following will not be televised.
Muslim community leaders have been speaking to the police as well because I think, apologies for the language you're hearing, but
the smashing of the people's cars. People are running.
Fucking hell. Game out, use the gun.
You know what, I disagree with that. Them people are not racist. I don't know, so a car, I
assume the people in it and they assumed that they were EDL, apparently, I'm not sure. And that's why they all run.
Kia, you brought violent Muslim militias out on the streets. You lied to them. You created this facade of this far-right English Defence League roaming the streets. But at least people can see that there's a militia there waiting now.
He has caused this divide between everyone. He has labelled us ADL, far-right, racists. But I think people are angry, and it's all down to Keir Starmer because he hasn't addressed why people are angry, why people are taking to the streets with such anger. I mean, these poor lassies lived someone's babies, and I think that's why people are thinking it could have happened to our kids.
And anyone who is even remotely concerned about mass migration and its impact on our way of life will channel in Naz Sharp's retweet. You would all better shut up for the sake of diversity. Of course, the media clapped along with all this. They know there's no far right. They also know there's no EDL. Or maybe they're talking about those thugs who gathered in Trafalgar Square on July the 27th.
Grace, how sweet the sound that saved someone like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Was
Deflecting works, of course. Before the population would blink, and without them even realising, the headlines and the news were all focused on the imaginary monster, the imaginary far right. And everyone had stopped talking about the slaughter of innocent kids. It hasn't been mentioned again. It was totally forgotten. It was a successful government ploy. For me personally, they're working to blame me for the drug on the streets.
What we've heard, Julie, from a lot of the far-right figures is that these protests that we've been seeing over the last week are not about extremists, they're about ordinary people just having their say. Here's an example, and it's not the only one, from the man known as Tommy Robinson.
And probably the most influential instigator of all is Tommy Robinson.
For this to be hijacked by people lying on sunbeds in Cyprus.
It's been coordinated by a man who just fled England.
The English Defence League have been given their phone number, given their email. I mean, the fellow who's associated with most is on a sunbed in Cyprus. I mean, he hates Europe, but there he is enjoying the European sunshine and stirring up poison and hate in this country.
There's no truth in that. Bring the case against me. Bring the evidence. The evidence shows the total opposite. Not once did I call for violence, ever. I ask people not to be violent.
Lads, you've got to remain calm. Look at our events in London, totally peaceful, totally calm. Didn't now. We were under attack by the media and politicians, by all of them. As far-right, racist, hooligans, all these things. A total appeal for calm. Try to remain calm. Just an appeal for calm, man. Bring the numbers. Bring the noise, but don't bring any violence, man. We can come in, galvanise the country. That's what we need to do, unite people. Now, yeah, the level of violence, it won't work. Anyway, stay safe. Stop the violence, man.
And to the men committing the violence, lads, those individual police officers who are coming out doing a difficult enough job, they've got families at home, they're ordinary people, okay? A peaceful revolution is brewing in Great Britain. A peaceful revolution. Now, why are the British public angry? I want to pause and take a moment to answer that question. I want to take a moment to help Keir and his cabal of apparatus chicks, because he seems to know there are troubles, he admits it. There's troubles on our streets. But I fear he may have misdiagnosed the cause.
Well, it was publicised as being a protest against the lack of government action to deal with the increasing amount of stabbings and knife crime across the country, but in particular against the awful, atrocious, horrific, brutal murder of the 3 primary school age girls in Southport in their playgroup, which, like I think so many other people, I was incredibly upset and distraught about that. And I went there in that spirit. I went there in that spirit, intending to attend, and did attend, a peaceful protest. Quarter to eight in the evening, the police, the riot police, decided to just charge on the crowd. There was absolutely no forewarning, there was no announcement by the police, like on a megaphone or anything like that, to say, can you clear the area, can you move, because we're going to start arresting people. They didn't do that, they just started arresting people completely out of the blue, suddenly, without any notice whatsoever. And I turned around and I saw a police officer arresting someone, and then a police officer came towards me and arrested me, and I was handcuffed. I was handcuffed behind my back.
So you were arrested for standing in the street?
Basically, yeah. Well, absolutely, that was it. That was why I was arrested. And I did nothing, didn't resist arrest.
This is stressing people for no reason. What happened literally, I can't breathe.
I think this has been going on for a long time, with escalating concerns over rampant knife crime, stabbings, and violence by some of the migrants and asylum seekers that is not being covered by the press at all because it doesn't fit their narrative. Censorship, fear, and intimidation is the tactics of a dictatorship. It's the same as any dictatorial regime in the world. If you look at Venezuela, what's been happening there, the way they control their population, they send people to prison because of their political beliefs. This government isn't acting any differently from that. It may not be as extreme, as that, but they're certainly headed in that direction.
We already know people are angry about the authorities covering up years and years of child rape gangs, mainly Pakistani Muslims. They are angry about two-tier policing. They're angry about politicised judges. They are angry when they see the police cowering before Islam in the name of diversity. Let's have a look at what else is going on.
Some of them, they're not screaming. It's like they wanted to be raped, you see. She also claims you see no
it's like she's enjoying it, you know, even though she isn't, but it's like she's enjoying it.
What about the consequences of what you're doing in terms of how that affects the person that's raped?
Yeah, the consequences, we look at that all the time, you know, because it happens, she might scream, you know, people might wake up. A lot of people, especially.
I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about the emotional effect, the physical effect it has on
people. We might rape her and wake up tomorrow with viruses ourselves, like HIV, you know.
What about regretting what you've done to the girl?
I also do regret about it, because if she fell pregnant, what will be that baby's father? Who will be that baby's father?
But what about her personal feelings?
That's right. All over the country, unchecked migrants are raping and killing. And more unchecked migrants arrive every single day. Maybe this is a reason people are angry. Let's have a look at the rape statistics for the UK. Yeah, we're the rape capital of Europe. Might be a reason people are angry. Wasting money, killing pensioners.
Some breaking news from our end, actually. Channel migrant arrivals surged by 43%. That's from our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. That's after 442 small boats crossed the channel yesterday on Easter Sunday. That now brings the total for this year of 5,435 channel crossings since the beginning of the year. That's well in excess of the 3,790 odd who crossed the channel by small boat at this point in 2023.
We're getting daily updates of the numbers during the COVID pandemic. And actually, that's an astonishing amount. Over 440 boats yesterday. The weather's calmer at the moment, a little bit calmer. This is only going to increase over the summer.
There are 1.7 million. That's the combined population of Glasgow, Cardiff and Nottingham. There are 1.7 million who are unemployed. They're not even looking for work. They're costing you and I, the taxpayer, £8.5 billion a year. That's the equivalent to a winter fuel allowance of £708 per year for every pensioner in this country. That might be a reason people are angry. Paedophile migrants. What about this?
You have been talking very graphically to some 13-year-old girls. How long have you been in the UK? 2 months. And she's at her age. Do you want to see my debt? Yeah, do you want to test it? You're asking other people's children to send them pictures of themselves.
You facilitated a meeting with a child for sex, didn't you? 13 years of age she was. You sent some pictures of your penis. Yes? No me. No, you. Who? No me. Who? I don't know. Off your I phone? don't speak English. Do you not speak English? No?
How long has it been in the contract? 3 months. You will be there. Do you think it's okay to say that you want to eat and kiss a child's pussy? Do you? You want to get charged to your house, a 14-year-old girl you want to rape and abuse.
You think they'd be on their best behaviour, but they're busy online grooming young children to rape within weeks or days of being in our country.
Kids were getting filmed by them from the residents that live in the Daresbury. Family members had rang the police and stuff. The police had come, they'd move them on, wouldn't take the phones or anything off them. People were getting followed from the Aldi by the illegal immigrants that are supposedly living in the Daresbury Hotel. But they're saying that there's no men or anything in that hotel, it's just all women and children. But,
have you ever seen any men?
Yeah, but the whole of our area know that there's men in there.
There's for many years been a lot of complaints about the hotel, about the immigrants that are staying there, the crime rate. There's also been reports that children as young as 12, 13 and 14 have been getting followed and harassed. What do you think to that?
I was talking to a couple of ladies there who were telling me that a daughter had been exposed, that one were having a pee in bush round the lake and it was showing his bits to a 6-year-old daughter. She reported it, nothing got done about it. Another lady who was speaking to her daughter actually worked in the hotel and they used to follow her home every night.
That would be the reason people are angry. And you get locked up for tweets. If you object to any of this and speak out online in anger or with humour.
I was upstairs doing some work up in the attic loft space in the house. And I had a massive bang. This was about an hour